So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the SPOR and XCVMPD Status Update webinar. We will now start. Please note that this session is being live streamed and will be recorded and will be made available through the EMA corporate website and EMA YouTube channel. Throughout the presentations, you'll be able to interact with the presenters using the Slido tool. This is voluntary and you may opt to remain anonymous. But if you provide your personal data, your name, please note that you are consenting to the processing of your personal data as explained in our privacy statement note. Throughout the presentation, please interact with us using Slido. You can do that by looking at the QR code or logging into slido.com. Please send and upvote the questions that you want to hear answered. So before raising any further questions, please have a look whether that question has been raised before. We will have a few sessions throughout the webinar today, and we will stop for questions on the different topics. But there's limited time for each topic, so we will address the top voted questions, possibly around 5. At the end of the webinar, there's a further session for questions, and we will again address remaining questions in order of voting. So please upvote the questions that you want to see answered. Due to if we have a high volume of questions or if there are specific questions that we need assistance of colleagues not available today, they might be questions that are left unanswered. We will have a look at those questions and we will see which ones need to make it to the FAQ documents that we publish on the SPOR portal. So please use Slido to send us your questions and vote for the questions you want to see addressed. Next. So the presentation today will be published on the SPOR portal document section. It will also be published on the EMA event webpage, and the recordings will be available on EMA YouTube channel and also EMA event webpage. Because of the summer period, please bear with us. Do not expect that these documents and these presentations will be available tomorrow or the following days. It might still take us a few days to do so, but this is where we will publish the documentation. So today's webinar aims at sharing a short-term status update on SMS, OMS, RMS, and XCVMPD, focusing on what we've done recently and what we're planning to do on the next quarter. So this webinar results from feedback we received from previous customer satisfaction survey asking more frequent and targeted information to users. As you'll see later on, it's not the usual format that we explain everything on the given domain, just the recent news events for each domain. So I just covered the welcome and housekeeping notes. We will have the next a brief introduction to how these things link together. So how SPOR, XCVMPD, PMS, and other processes are linked and why the relevance of this particular webinar. Then we will move on to a status update from each of the different domains, SMS first, OMS, RMS, and XCVMPD. And at the end, there's a little brief session for conclusions and yet again, more further questions and answers if there's anything that you come up in the meantime. So without further ado, starting the content of the webinar, we received feedback last time that people wanted to have an overview of how SPOR, XCVMPD, and PMS kind of fit together and why these webinars are relevant. So a brief introduction. So as it is today, most cases, industry needs to register or apply for new substances, new referentials, and new organizations to be registered in SMS, RMS, and OMS ahead of applications and XCVMPD submissions. So the data registered in SMS, RMS, and OMS are already in use in many of the systems from the network, being the identity and access management, being EAF, the PDF forms, UDRGMDP, UPD for the vets, and yet, of course, XCVMPD. And these systems are used by industry and NCAs. Then with regards to products, XCVMPD uses the same lists of SMS, RMS, and OMS, so the data is aligned, and the data entered by industry and XCVMPD on the products are already in use by clinical trial application system, by the EV human for pharmacovigilance, by the pharmacovigilance fees, and other consuming systems. More recently, the data entered in XCVMPD for products has been transformed and loaded into PMS and is further made available to IRIS and the PLM portal in many regulatory processes such as inspections, parallel distribution, web EAF forms for variations, EPIs, and also projects that we are currently delivering such as the ESMP for shortages. So the data that is ultimately registered in SMS, OMS, and RMS and then entered in XCVMPD actually is also made available on a series of regulatory processes and is also shared and interacted with by industry and NCAs through those different business processes. So this is an overview of how the data connects. So today we will provide a brief update on what we're doing in the pillars of SPOR, SMS, RMS, OMS, and XCVMPD, and allude to possible impacts and ideally benefits that these different processes can take from the activities that we are doing. So starting with SMS, I'll hand over to my colleague Pedro.
Good morning. My name is Pedro Batista, and I'll be giving a status update on SMS. So in terms of activities for this year, so on a monthly basis, weekly basis, we keep performing the processing of change requests and the usual enrichment exercises that we have been performing for quite some years already, such as INNs, USANs, UNIs from FDA, and also enrichments from the European Pharmacopoeia. Then also as an ongoing activity, we continue to develop new data quality profiles to monitor and ensure the data quality in SMS. And as recent activities, we have completed enrichments on relationships, the European Commission list and number, and 2 custom attributes for active substances and for substances used in critical medicines. Then in parallel, in terms of data cleansing, we have completed in Q1 the cleansing of the legacy development substances from XCVMPD. More recently, we completed the cleansing of starches substances. As next activity, we will aim to cleanse all the active substances from the critical medicines list, and after that, the human vaccines. In parallel as well to these cleansing activities, we are also addressing the substances that have been identified by the Substance Validation Group as duplicates. In terms of documentation, so we are working with the SPOR key user group on the new version for the SMS guidance for external users, and we aim to publish 2 new versions still this year. And in terms of modernization initiatives, so this is not new, but I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that the SMS API is available for both NCA users and industry users since Q1. So anyone can log in into EMA account management and request access to the SMS API and access either all the data for NCAs or the public data for industry. Now, focusing on the activities that we have recently completed. So there's new data fields that are available both in the substance export in the SPOR portal and also in the SMS API. And these are relationships from salt to parent. And the reason why we have worked on this was to support the European Shortages Monitoring Platform, so related to the critical medicines list, but also the antimicrobial safe sales and use platform for veterinary products and, in general, pharmacovigilance activities. We have also made available the European Commission list and number to allow mapping of substance data with the European Commission, the European Food and Safety Authority, and the European Chemical Agency. These two new data fields are now available, and they have been completed for the parent substances, have been completed for most of the chemicals, some proteins, polymers, and nucleic acids, while the EC list number have been completed for the substances that do have these numbers. So it's not applicable to all substances. In terms of benefits, this will allow the conversion from salts to bases to active moieties, so the relationships, while the EC list number will allow better interoperability of substance data with other agencies and the Commission. And both of them improve the data quality of SMS. Now, we also have two new data fields available for now only in the SMS API, and these are the custom attributes critical medicine and the custom attribute active substance. And these new attributes mainly allow us to prioritize the substance cleansing to support certain key use cases, such as the shortages, e-prescription, and the generation of global substance identifiers. So these two new custom attributes are available in the API, so they are visible to both industry and NCAs, and they flag the substances that are mentioned in the Union list of critical medicines, or the substances that are used as active substance in a valid human medicinal product that it's authorized in the EEA. Then for the starches cleansing that I have mentioned, so this is part of the cleansing activities that are being led by the substance validation group. So we completed this group of substances. It was around 100 substances. Duplicates have been identified, and the valid substances at the preferred term standardized. In terms of our next activities, so I've mentioned a few times the critical medicines. So now we have identified the substances that are in scope of this list, and we will be focusing the data cleansing on these substances. So the cleansing is already ongoing by the SVG, and we hope to implement all the changes still in Q3. And with this, we hope to have a reliable list of active substances that are used in the Union list of critical medicines. Now, in terms of the SVG flag 0, so these are substances that have been reviewed by the SVG, and they have been identified either to be a duplicate or an invalid substance. So these are substances that we want to nullify, but we cannot nullify at the moment because the substances are linked to products in XCV-MPD or to veterinary products in UPD or in other consuming systems. So for this here, we are focusing on the duplicates. So we are not addressing the invalid substances, so only duplicated substances that have a one-to-one replacement. And this month, we have sent a communication to marketing authorization holders and NCAs with the steps that should be taken. And in terms of activities, what we suggest marketing authorization holders of human products and NCAs responsible for the certain veterinary products is to identify which products do have SVG flag 0 and a common duplicate. And you can find this information in the substance export available in the SPOR portal. And cross-check this information with your product record, either in XCV-MPD or UPD. And if you do have a substance that has these conditions, to replace it with a provided replacement substance. Then, in due course, so we don't have an exact date planned, we would perform a data fix to relink all the outstanding products from a substance with SVG flag 0 to the replacement substance. And then at a later stage, we would nullify these duplicated substances. But there is no date for this activity yet. A reminder, though, when we do nullify the substances, the EV gateway users will not be able to make submissions using the nullified substances anymore. So you should update the substance records in your products there as well. And as I've mentioned, we are also working on a new version of the SMS guidance. And this new version, the focus will be on business rules and also on data quality monitoring. So to summarize what has been changed recently, we have the EC numbers available in the export and in the API. We have relationships sole to parent also available in the export in the API for most of the chemicals and a few substances from other classes. And we have two custom attributes available in the API for critical medicine and active substances. We are currently working on a new version of the SMS guidance and cleansing the substances from critical medicines. And afterwards, we'll start focusing on human vaccines and the SVG flag 0. And that was my presentation from SMS.
So we will now go into questions. And I will start with the top voted, so it'll display on screen. Pedro?
So the first question is, will there be an online search function for substances instead of a downloadable list? So there is already an online search function. So if you go to the SPOR portal, there is a link that brings you to the SMS user interface, which is available in Iris. So it is indeed a limited search functionality, but you can search substances there. And in the future, we do aim to have a fully developed user interface where all the data fields will be visible there, but there is no expected date for that yet. So for the moment, especially the SVG flag 0 is only visible in the export and in the API. Then next question is, what action is required from marketing authorization holder if SVG code is 0? So you should, in general, avoid to use any substance that has SVG code 0. If you are already using a substance with this code, then you should use the replacement substance if available, or you can create a ticket for the case of invalid substances. So in this case, it will be a product by product decision. So you can create a ticket and we will advise you on which substance you should use for that particular product. Is there a query to run in XCV-MPD to identify all substances used in own products?
So yes, you can run an advanced query in EVWeb where you select that you want to view the substances referenced in your product. You can also use the data export tool, which is available in the restricted area of the UDREV-Jones website.
Where can they find information on this? Where can they find? Maybe it's useful to explain where they can find guidance on this.
This is also in the EV restricted area where you have all the manuals published for the tools that are related to XCVMPD.
Thank you. So next question, when can we see substance relationship fields in SMS data? So it is now available in the substance export. So it's the latest column that you can see. And this information is also available in the API. Then for SVG flag 0, we also have other category substances where EMA comments are not provided and duplicate substance information is not provided. What marketing authorization must do in this case? In this case, you should create a ticket to ask advice for your particular product. So I suppose you are referring to substances with a comment invalid. So in these cases, it would be a case-by-case approach. And yeah, so this question is the same answer. So invalid substances do not have a one-to-one replacement. So a ticket is required so that we can advise you for your particular product.
Here, just a comment, sorry. The first question I have restored because the second part has not been really replied on how these fields are going to be, if there is going to be any business rule during the entry on PMS UI with the relationship between substances, etc. So, for example, if you have this active ingredient and there is the salt as well, if one is going to be selected as the reference strength and the other one as the active substance. So I think this is a very good question. For the moment, we have not discussed these business rules because the data entry is not done through the product UI or through the PMS API. All the data that we have in PMS is coming from XCVMPD. So once we start discussing the process to start including the data through the PMS UI and the PMS API, we will start having those discussions. But for the moment, we are not able to give a reply because those discussions haven't taken place. So that would be the answer.
Thank you. And then, do you recommend waiting after Q3 to make this identification of substances with flag 0? If we make this activity now, there's still many not reviewed yet. So there will always be new substances added with SVG flag 0 since the cleansing will still continue for a few more years. So there's still many classes that have not been cleansed. But the chemicals are now all cleansed. Most of the polymers are cleansed. Most of the proteins are cleansed. So there's a lot of substances that have already been cleansed that are used in about 80% of the products. So I do recommend that you do a review when you can, as soon as possible, because the most common substances have already been reviewed. Yes, there will be more substances getting SVG flag 0 in the future, but the bulk of the work can already be done now. For the cleansing of critical medicines, what actions are needed from the marketing authorization holder? So for the moment, we are not cleansing medicine products. So we are cleansing the active substances that are used in those products. So the action required is the same for the other types of substances. So if there is a SVG flag 0, you should update your products regardless if it's a critical medicine or not. We are just shifting our substance cleansing priorities to focus on these substances, but then the outcome for the marketing authorization holders is the same if it's critical medicine or not. Then we have identified in our internal database substances with SVG flag 0 based on the last extract on July the 4th. Do you think that there will be other substances with SVG flag 0? Is it complete? I am sure that there will be more substances with SVG flag 0 in the future. So the cleansing is still ongoing, but most the substances used more commonly in all products in the EU have already been cleansed. So the duplicates of these substances already have the SVG flag 0. Yes, there will be more in the future, but if you do this internal review now, you will be completing most of the work that you will ever have to do. Then will the duplicated substance names be taken up as a synonym under the identifier that is kept active? That's a very good substance. That's a very good question. Indeed, so this is the plan when we nullify a duplicated substance. If the substance name is valid, then we add it as a synonym under the substance that we will keep as current. And can you confirm only marketing authorization holders of critical products have received the SVG 0 email? I don't understand.
So if you are referring to the communication that was sent at the end, at the beginning of July, this email was sent to all EV Human registered users. So if you are user registered to use the XCVMPD, for example, you should have received the email. So all users from marketing authorization holder and sponsor organizations.
Maybe just to add, so the email was sent out to all EV users, so all companies, all products. There's activities such as the package, which we will highlight when we cover XCVMPD, that are specific for critical medicines. And these other recommendations on the substance cleansing, on the referential cleansing, on the OMS checking, they are specific to all products, but they're best practice recommendations to avoid impacts with the data being migrated to PMS and being used in the PLM portal and being used by EAF. So they're best practices to avoid recommendation. And you will see that for critical medicines, we have deadlines that we've recommended and a strict set of actions. For the rest, we recommend the companies to follow those best practices, but we haven't, strictly speaking, enforced any particular deadline. But to mitigate any impacts to you, we do recommend that you try to understand those recommendations and implement them where possible.
If the substance is only false and there is no true substance, what should we do? Change the substance in our product or notify it on the SPOR website? So I think this question is a misunderstanding of the SPOR export. So in the substance export, you see a list of names, and there is one name that will say true, and then there will be many other names that say false. But this is not the SVG flag 0. So this is about the substance preferred term. So each substance has one preferred term, and this will be the name that will say true. All the other names, so the synonyms, the translations, they will say false because they are not the preferred term, but it's still the same substance record. And what you should be looking is to the column SVG and see if there is a 0 or not. You can find more information on this in the guidance that is available in the SPOR portal. Then what is the deadline to update our products for SVG flag 0? So this is just a recommendation. So at the moment, there is no defined deadline for this exercise. Then if I understood right, the marketing authorization holder do not need to perform any actions if their substances were not yet flagged by SVG. So if SVG is blank. That is correct. So from an SMS point of view, a substance without a SVG code, so the blank, has not yet been reviewed. So no action is required for those substances at the moment. where can we find the list of all substances marked as 0 as of today? So if you go to the SPOR portal, to the tab SMS, you can download export from SMS from yesterday, and this export is refreshed every single day. So every day you can see the substances that have SVG flag 0. When herbal and allergen substances should be cleaned, so they have these two substance types have not yet been prioritized, so the cleansing has not started. So I don't have an estimated date for these two substance types yet. And this is a very good question. Will the unspecified substances be nullified? So there are some substances that have a comment unspecified, and there's still analysis being performed at the moment for these substances. So these are very general substances that in principle should not be used, but they are linked to many products. They will be kept for certain use cases, but they will likely be restricted for other use cases. For the moment, they can still be used, but no action will be taken, so they will not be nullified this year for sure. We are still analyzing the best way to implement this, and then next year we'll be communicating the plan for these substances. For vet substances, only NCA will be told how to vet marketing authorization holders know if their substance is affected. So the veterinary substances are also available in the export. So you can see the SVG flag 0 there, and you can see the replacement substance there. So for veterinary products, most of the substances, especially the exclusive veterinary substances, were cleansed even before UPD went live. So the impacts now are much smaller than on the human side, because there's going to be much less products impacted. In SMPC, active substance name given as acetazolamide, and in section 3.2.b.1, composition given as active substance, so it says BP, so which active substance should the user pick, as both have different EV codes and SMS IDs? So this is also a very good question. So this is about specified substances group 3, so substances that have a pharmacopoeial reference in the substance name. So there's going to be discussions with the SVG on this particular topic very soon, and the SMS guidance will then be updated based on the outcome of this on this meeting, and you will have a reply to this within a couple of months. Today, SMS consists of a number and a name. Will the information in SMS expand with the relationships between active moiety and salt, or is this information only in the SRS database? So there's many data fields in SMS, so it's not just a number and a name. So we have molecular formula, we have molecular weight, we have INCHI keys, and now we have relationships as well. So what you can see in the export is the most useful data fields, but it's not all the data fields. The data in SMS is continuously being enriched. And you can see also this additional data in the API. Then can we use substance with comment unspecified and SVG flag 0? So in principle, these substances should not be used for new products, but for products that are already registered. For the moment, they can continue to be used if a replacement is not identified. Where to find the SVG classification for active substances? Should we consult them in the Excels of SMS? So there is a column in the export that is the SVG code. So you can see SVG flag 1 for valid substances, flag 0 for duplicates and invalid, and the ones without flag are the ones that have not yet been cleansed. And is there any option to see filter by SVG flag in Iris? Unfortunately, no. For the moment, the SVG flag is only visible in the export and in the API. So you cannot see this data field in any system. Where can we see our SVG flag if we have not received the email?
So there is no dedicated SVG flag for each company. So you need to go to SMS, and in the export, as Pedro explained, you have an attribute where you can see whether this attribute is set to 0. And then you need to figure out if those substances are relevant to you, if they're used in your products. And just a heads up, so I'm seeing the questions coming in. There's a few questions that overlap with XCVMPD, so I am parking them for after we cover the XCVMPD piece. And I'm already seeing a few repeated questions on things that Pedro has addressed. So we will wrap up with the questions currently on screen, and we move along, and we can revisit if there are further substance questions that pop up in the meantime. Yeah, so Pedro, just these remaining ones.
What if the SVG classification is empty, but in comment section duplicate is stated? Do marketing authorization holders have to replace it? So this might have been one incorrect, one missing SVG flag 0. So if you do find cases like this, please do create a ticket. But we do address this on a daily basis. So this particular substance should now have SVG flag 0. So if there is a common duplicate, there will be SVG flag 0. And then last question about the SMS API link. So you can find instructions on how to connect to the SMS API in the SMS guidance that is available in the SPOR portal.
As explained, so we still have a few overlapping questions with XCVMPD, which we will circle back after we present XCVMPD. We will now move on to OMS, but if you still have any questions on SMS, please feel free to add them in Slido, and we will cover the top voted ones at the end of the webinar.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Debra Braga. I'm the current OMS business leader. Now we'll guide you on the last updates on OMS. In terms of customer service, we aim to do a review of the Q&A that we've published one year ago in Service Desk to ensure that we have the guidance that we are publishing is the latest version available. In terms of data management, we recently did a cleansing on pediatrics data. We'll go over these details in the next slide. In terms of process improvement, we recently developed an automated integration with EV Deltas to OMS. In terms of still in the process improvement, we continue to review our OMS categories and in order to tailor and have them according to the latest business integration that OMS is now providing data to. And we'll show you more information about this new category of individuals in OMS. The same applicable for entrepreneurs registration. This is a latest process that we've implemented in OMS. It's not applicable to all work streams, but I'll show you where is it applicable. And there's still some work to be done in terms of OMS data protection notice. This goes alongside with the upcoming registration of natural persons in OMS, also restricted to certain consuming systems. In terms of data quality, OMS continues working on our data quality profiles to ensure that we have the latest rules in our system and that we keep a high level of data quality of our database. We also aim, starting this quarter, to do a major review on the business rules on the legal entity type, because we recently had to review and update a Switzerland legal entity type. So now we aim to do a major review of all legal entity types and do an assessment to understand what will be the impact, and if no major impact, and then update so that they are reflected as the rules used by each national business registry. During the initial part of the year, we concluded our yearly activity, the currency check. We started with EV data, with marketing authorization holders, and we continue with the rest of data that has not been updated for the last 2 years. In terms of documentation, we continue improving our documentation. We collected some information from our key user group in terms of ServiceNow experience, and we're now aiming to create a new document with our key user group on how to read the documentation, quick guidance, user guidance for our OMS users. In terms of infrastructure development, there are some changes coming to our OMS, not only the portal, but also how it works. Just to highlight the OMS portal upgrade that you'll see in the current quarter, and the version reason that we'll start using in our OMS dictionary. In terms of work completed, what have we been working in the last quarter? So we concluded the review and mapping of 1,000 records of pediatric data. This was previously identified as unique organization out of the 10,000 procedures currently used by pediatrics. So this will be used, was a cleansing activity to support the pediatric application submission via the IRIS portal. With this cleansing, we hope to smooth the transition for applicants as organizations are already registered in OMS, as well as increase the data quality of organization data and locations used in pediatrics submission. In terms of category review, as you saw, there will be some steps, different steps on this category review. The first one, where we integrated entrepreneurs and natural person as a new category. So this it was done of course, to accommodate the latest business needs and to identify records registered under conditional rules. So this inclusion of new organization categories is comprised by 2 levels. Level 1, individuals, and level 2, which will have 2 different terms. One which will be used for entrepreneurs, and the other one for natural persons, to be used later on in the year. So these new categories, of course, it's going to be used for better categorization, identification of these special records. So coming again to this entrepreneur registration and why did this come to life? So whilst a long-term solution is under assessment, certain entrepreneurs need to be registered at this point in OMS so that there is no delays on any veterinary procedures, issue of other GMDP certificates, or even any marketing authorization holders that are entrepreneurs and need to be registered in OMS to be able to comply with EV submissions. So how is this coming to life? So OMS will register entrepreneurs that are not registered in the National Business Registry, but they are registered in publicly available official entrepreneurs database. These are going to be our sources, and the sources that we are currently used are today captured in our OMS data quality standards. If you are aware of any of these publicly available entrepreneurs database of a certain country that we don't have it there, please submit via ServiceNow, and we'll review the information and add it to our data quality standards if applicable. These entrepreneurs, how will they be registered in OMS? How can you see them? So they will continue to be using the normal industry and pharma company category. This it's a must, so that we can ensure that the downstreams can still use them. And a new category will be added, and this is how it will look like in the system. You'll have basically 4 categories, two of them that identifies an industry pharma company, and the new one which identify as individual entrepreneurs. With this new process, we don't expect more users and entrepreneurs to be registered in OMS. This was only created to avoid any rejections for users that are required in UPD, other GMDP, or EV as marketing authorization holders. These are the only conditions. What's next? As I already mentioned, we are planning to start the registration of natural persons. Again, this comes in hand with the entrepreneur's registration. This is an ad hoc registration process, whilst a long-term solution is under assessment. So OMS will register natural persons for which there is no legal, there is a legal justification, and there is no registration of those people, entities in the National Business Registry. For this, OMS will have to complete our OMS data protection notice, and here we'll provide the justification for the inclusion of this data in OMS and how will it be processed. How the data is going to be registered in OMS. Similar to the entrepreneurs, we will have to add industry and pharma company as the main category, and the second category will be added to identify these natural persons. The same way as entrepreneurs, we don't expect more users to register. This will be applicable only for UPD, other GMDP, and marketing authorization holders in EV. Another feature that we expect to have in OMS, which is the version reason. With this, we expect to have transparency on OMS changes. With this new version, we expect with each new version of the OMS data created to have 2 main fields. One where we're going to have a standard RMS term as a version type, a short identification of what changed, and then a more extensive field, a version comment, where we're going to provide a little bit more information, for example, in terms of a merge, which will be the OMS ID that will prevail. With this, we allow the possibility to query OMS API to determine those more complex cases, such as the merges, as well as provide a clear reason for the creation of these new versions. And last but not least, the upcoming changes to our OMS portal. This was done because the support to the current technology that we had to our portal has ended. And with this, we had to do a refactory of our OMS portal to a new Angular version. So it's expected for you to see changes in the portal in UAT for the current quarter. In Q3, you'll see that OMS portal will look slightly different. The functionalities will be the same. We're just hoping to improve the user experience and at the same time increase security and the performance, since we're using the latest technology available. In production, we expect to have this between the current quarter and the next quarter. So for production, is not going to happen immediately. In a nutshell, so OMS, what did we conclude? So OMS already concluded the yearly currency check. EV deltas are already in place. Pediatrics are already consuming OMS data. Category we've completed with individual category. However, we will continue working in terms of refining the description of currently used categories. Entrepreneur registration is already in place. The natural person registration still need some work to be done in terms of a data protection notice to be updated. Upcoming changes to our OMS portal, you'll see the look will be slightly different, but nothing will change. The same functionalities and features will be the same. In terms of version reasons, a new feature that will come to OMS. In the future, we aim to review our legal entity types, to implement the so desired return change request functionality, as well as continue supporting other business activities such as the new fee regulation, and continue improving our OMS portal and providing a better user experience. So I think we can now go to Slido. How are companies meant to correct errors, their SPOR address entries due to the local postal service address being vastly different from the legally registered company address? It is not possible for local postal to correct those errors, nor is it possible for companies to change. So this takes back to one of OMS key principles, which is that OMS will not copy information from the National Business Registry or your legal documentation. OMS, and here we're talking locations, will use the latest version of the data. And in this case, we're talking locations. It's possible that when the company was registered, a certain postal code, for example, was being used at that date, but the local postal service might have changed their rules and that postal code might have changed. So OMS will always use the latest version of the data provided by the local postal service. Certain discrepancies are acceptable between the company's legal documentation and what is published in the OMS just because of this reason, because OMS is a standardized list of information, and we will continue using the latest version of the data. When will EV organization ID or EV codes be populated for all locations in OMS which are also part of EV organization lists? So this is, as I mentioned, this was an activity that was concluded with the recent implementation of the automated process of EV to OMS deltas. All OMS records have the EV codes, the correspondent EV codes. So we imported all EV codes into OMS. Of course, you may find a couple of corner cases that we have not imported, but the reason for that is because the data in EV, it was not mastered. Because I can tell you this case because we recently received a ticket, a company asking us why we have not imported a certain EV code, and when we go to EV, the only fields that were populated was city and nothing else. This was, of course, a very old record in EV. And with this, of course, we don't have a way to correctly map into the correct OMS organization. These are the only corner cases. In any case, if you find any missing mappings, please raise a ticket and we will let you know if this is one of these corner cases or if there's something missed in our process. For OMS documents updates, we don't see summary of changes or track version of documents, especially for data quality standards and change request documents. Is there any option to check? Yes, there is a third document in our OMS portal, which is called news items. And any major changes to our processes, they will be captured in this document. So if you're looking to understand what are the latest changes to OMS, this news item document in OMS portal is the perfect place for this. You'll see any changes that happen either in the OMS data quality standards or the change request. They will be captured in this document. In 21, OMS was integrated with the other GMDP, both for veterinary and human medicinal products. But many times when searching for manufacturing OMS, it cannot be found in ELDRA, even when it's what should we do? But many times when searching for a manufacturing in OMS, so let me try to see if I understand the question. So if the site is in OMS, but it cannot be found in ELDRA, you need to raise a ticket so that the other GMDP colleagues can understand what happened and probably force the synchronization between OMS and ELDRA. If the site is not in OMS, neither in ELDRA, please let us know. We need a ticket for our OMS team so that we can further support and understand why is this manufacturing not there. There are few cases where EMA reference the address doctor creates business issues. Does the OMS team consider proposing a workaround to them in these rare cases? If you have any specific case where these issues are coming, we ask you to contact us via service desk. However, we will continue using this powerful tool, the address doctor, because this is the way that we have to ensure that we have the latest version of the data provided by the local authorities. If you have any issues with the NCA, our SPOR key user group developed a standard communication to be used in even a standard guidance where you can see a couple of examples of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. If you have any particular case, let us know via service desk and we'll review this particular case. Until when the EV code cleansing in OMS need to be finished? So this EV code cleansing is finished in OMS. And this is an ongoing, this is an integration that we have today. So we did a backlog cleansing before we actually triggered those EV deltas that I've been talking for a while now. So all the changes that are happening today in EV, they are lively import into OMS. Of course, it may take us 1 or 2 days, depending if it's a Friday or if it's a Monday, but we will implement all the relevant changes. OMS and EV are now the other way around. EV and OMS are now synchronized because EV is not consuming from OMS. What were the business cases and requirements for entrepreneurs as new organization types? What were the business cases? So those two categories needed to be included in OMS because we have now 3 major consuming systems of OMS that need to have these 2 type of organizations, and without OMS including them, there is no immediate solution. Right now, we have our colleagues trying to develop a permanent solution, but whilst this permanent solution is under assessment and implemented, we need to find an ad hoc process, and this ad hoc process is OMS, so that there is no negative impact and that we don't block any VET submission, we don't block any other GMDP certificate from being issued, and we don't block any marketing authorization holder from submitting any the mandatory ICSR report. For OMS, does the registration of natural concern only? No. As I mentioned during my presentation, this registration of natural persons, one of the domains will be indeed veterinary medicines, but if it's also applicable, we'll also allow the registration for any natural persons that maybe need to issue a certificate in elder GMDP, or if they have a marketing authorization hold role in EV from the human side. What to do if one loc ID is tagged to multiple address? So I don't expect this to happen because the loc ID is a unique ID. But if you found an example of this, we kindly ask you to report this to our service desk because we need to investigate. But a key rule of OMS, this cannot happen. One loc ID can only reference to one physical location. Due to Angular OMS portal improvements, will this have any impact OMS? No, we don't expect any impact to OMS. It will be just the feel and look of our OMS portal that will change. Oops, I think I may have deleted the wrong one. Anyway.
So just a heads up, so Deborah will answer the next few questions on the screen, and then we will move on to the next part. But if you still have OMS questions, you can add them in Slido. We'll try to revisit later.
Thank you. In the April, it was mentioned that EMA was planning update to the change request process to make it more efficient. Are those activities still? Yes, they're still expected. Probably towards Q4, it will be a realistic time frame to have what we call the return change request functionality. These are the changes that we're planning on the change request feature. What to do if active site is tagged as inactive location or organization in OMS, and not present, but still active substance. Okay, so here let's divide this answer by 2 main topics: organization inactive and location inactive. Organization. An organization in OMS can only be inactivated if it ceases to exist, or if we by mistake have created this organization in OMS, but later on, after a QA activity, we've identified that this organization was wrongly created because it's not the main legal name. This will be a matter of letting us know via service desk what is the organization, but this will be the only case why we would deactivate an organization, either because we cannot find evidence that it's a legal address, or because it ceased to exist. A location, the only time we deactivate a location is when a certain organization is no longer performing activities or doing business in this physical location. If we deactivated a location and if we identify something that it should have not been deactivated, please let us know via service desk. But I can tell you that if we deactivate it, it's because we receive an external change request to deactivate this location. So we'll have to do a bit more of investigation because at this point we receive contradictory information. How should different city names be handled? SPOR lists the English name, national authority refer. So if the address or SPOR will always keep the main location in English as well as the main name when this translation is available. When we talk locations, if the location is recognized by the National Postal Service, we will retain the address in English, but a child location will be created. I call it child because it's under the same loc ID, but it will be another version of the location in the local language. Now here it depends. For example, I know that in the EAF, it's possible for you to use the local language of the address. In other systems, unfortunately, it's not possible. They have not implemented this feature. It's only in EAF. Are there any plans to align further with the other GMTP? In some cases, the name of other does not show the name. So this with the other GMDP was a major cleansing that we did a couple of years back. It took us some time because it was a lot of data. But with the other GMDP, we found that majority of the records created were not legal entities, but they were departments or business units. And this is what you see. What you used to see in Elder GMDP was not the name of the main legal entity, but the name of a certain department. You could even have cases where you'd see the legal name plus production of sterile injection. So this was integral part of the name. And when we created the data in OMS, of course, you lost this type of information. But we did this major cleansing. We don't expect to further to do any further cleansing because when we imported the data, we looked at one by one. We looked over 60,000 records to ensure that when we register in OMS, we would register with the legal name and not the department or business units.
But just to state, so the cleansing of the UDR GMDP was to map and create the organizations with the proper standard name and address in OMS. This mapping was done, but to all the certificates that were issued until that point in time, they remained unchanged. So prospectively, the new certificates will reflect aligned data between using the OMS latest name and the OMS latest address. But the certificates that were issued until that point in time will forever remain unchanged. So there's no plans to go and reissue certificates that were issued in the past. They remain there, and in the background, we know that it's equivalent information. And on that note, I think that was the last question that we parked for OMS at the moment. We will move ahead with RMS, but as before, so if there's still outstanding questions on OMS, please add them in Slido. We can revisit later.
Good morning, everyone. So today I will be giving you an update on RMS and what we have been able to deliver in this last quarter, so quarter 2. If I can have the next slide, I will show you what we've been able to deploy and also to work on over this quarter, and most importantly, giving you an overview of what we are aiming to achieve in the next upcoming quarters so through the whole 2024. So overall, in terms of customer services, we always aim to deliver an efficient data and service and data quality of the terms and the list and relevant information that you can find in each of the master data in RMS service. So we progressively increase and always keep an eye on the level of the data quality, assuming some quality control and quality assurance all over 2024. So it's a progress activity that we always do, focused on specific list. Of course, we give the priorities to the most relevant list. And we're talking about the revision most of the time. We are a total of 200 lists, so it might take the time. So that's why we are prioritizing the quality of specific lists. Regarding the data management, so the management and the handling of the change request and tickets in ServiceNow or any data service that we have, I can tell you that we always receive a quite significant volume of request clarification in RMS, ServiceNow, but most importantly, what we aim to is to give you more transparent information on a matter that in 2024 impacts most of the industry. So it's the preparatory activities to map the XCV-MPD terms versus the RMS terminology, and most in particular because of the go-live announced in PMS. So we prepared a bunch of guidances, a bunch of documents for you, and I will give you more information on that. We've also been publishing a change request process to clarify the process and the timelines for the request of this and handling of these requests. But then, and this was basically delivered in Q2. So I will give you more information on that later. Regarding what we aim to do for the data management activity, we aim to release in Q4 to continue working on the release of the EMDM list. If you remember, those lists are medical device types that are coming from the European Commission. So we had scheduled this activity for Q4. At the beginning, it was supposed to happen before, but we had to prioritize more activities. So that's why it's on Q4 for the moment. What I can tell you is that this list is on UAT, so it's about to be loaded in UAT. So that's the progress that we are making. Regarding the quality of the data, as announced last meeting in Q1, we have been reviewing completely the manufacturing list, so the activities of the operations. That is also a list very important for the PMS go-live and most importantly for the ESMP timelines to hit in Q1 of 25. We have reviewed that with the new multidisciplinary group created specifically for this purpose. This list will be under review for the last quarter of 2024, on top of other lists that we want also to prioritize, such as the special precaution for storage and the shelf life. So for the moment, we're keeping track of the request that we received via ServiceNow or via change as a change request via the RMS portal. Focusing on Q2, what we've been able to deliver is an update of the MEDRA version 27.0. This is a routine update, but it's relevant for the RMS users and users of other systems. We also have reviewed and just completed the updates of the shortage root of cause. This is a list focused to support the ESMP go-live. So we had prioritizing also this. On top of this, we have also two current activities that we are running through Q3. They started in Q2 and we are moving ahead all over Q3. This is the review of the units of measurements list and the pharmaceutical dose forms. In terms of pharmaceutical dose form, I will give you more information later because there is another slide. And regarding the MEDRA version 20, we are also pushing this into UAT environment. We will be validating. It's again a routine update that we always do. And then if this will be ready in production and available at the beginning of September. Overall, we have been producing some documentation, some documents for you to be, for transparency, so to be aware of, is the minutes of the reviewed manufacturing activity list in RMS. We have also been publishing 3 documents regarding the XVMPD RMS change request process and the way we have been mapping each single terms between EV and RMS. On top of that, we also have, last but not least, the RMS data protection notice. This is an EMA work, but it has an impact on the user because we aim to protect, of course, the personal data in Europe. So that's why we are implementing and we have worked on this document. This is currently under approval stage and it will be published very soon. Overall, as per the other colleagues, we have been participating basically to the SPOR update webinar, PMS Info Day, and the rest of the information, the rest of the main webinar that we have. Regarding the modernization of the RMS service, the most important things for you to be aware is that now the unaffiliated user in RMS can submit change requests without being registered. We are also working in pushing into production the RMS, the previous version of the RMS term being made available by the API. This is not yet done, and the timelines for deployment is scheduled for Q4 in production. Overall, like Deborah also mentioned for RMS, we are improving the portal and also will be made available like per RMS as announced in production in Q4. Same for the release of the RMS and Medra API integration. If I can have the next slides, I will guide you through the 3 activities that we have been able to complete. As I mentioned before, you will be now, if you look in RMS portal document section, you will be able to see the new version of the documents and the mapping document XVMPD to RMS that we have published on April. Now, yesterday, basically, we published a new version, so you can now access it, and you will be able to see that there are new information that we wanted to transparently share with you, in particular on the action that the EMA has done for you to facilitate the mapping and the review, and also what you should be doing for each term. Importantly, please have a look to those files. Have a look on your current XVMPD. Make sure that now that you can have access to both PMS API and PMS PUI, you can see the data. Of course, PMS API, you can see caps and naps, and PUI only caps, but it's still something that you can have a look on it. And make sure that you avoid, where possible, to use the non-current or nullified terms and to use only the current terms, because those will be the ones to be fully recognized by DDQM. Of course, there are some exceptions, and those are reported in the file. Medra version, I won't spend much time. This is a routine update. The new version has been pushed into production in April 24, and we are working on a new list to be made available in 1st of October, again, 24. Submission of an affiliated user roles. This is what I mentioned before. You can now submit change requests without being an affiliated user. This will definitely reduce the bureaucracy and will facilitate the user experience. If I can have the next slide, I will guide you through what we aim to do. The one before, no? One. So the work that we plan to do next, we are aiming, as I mentioned, to review totally the unit of measurement list. This is most importantly is an activity that we're running internally, but not alone. We're also involving the WHO and the APSLA Monitoring Center to make sure that we are aligned with the information that are reported, and most importantly, for the future generation of PHPAD based on the EUCOM codes. We have been reviewing these. We have passed to the WHO, so now we're waiting for few feedbacks, and we aim to update this list to get it final by Q3, depending on when we receive the feedback. Then another list is PDF, so it's the pharmaceutical dose form, the EDQM owned list. We are aiming to review, we're already doing that, but we haven't completed this activity, to identify any current or replacement term that needs to be used instead of the non-current terms, because there are also different information reported that if you open this list, you can find many characteristics for legacy terms. So we are reviewing that and making sure that these are aligned as per IDIQM and also as per the terminologies that we have. Of course, you will be able to have access more updated information, more clean data, and importantly, understanding where a term is non-current and should be used or not, as I mentioned also with the last XCVMPD and RMS files. Bedra version 20 is the next routine update that we foresee. This activity is ongoing. Actually, in 5 days, we will be publishing in UAT environment. We will be validating that because we are waiting for the CVMP to share with us the list. And then this will also be made available in September for the users. Data protection notice, this is to be compliant with the GDPR requirement, as also Deborah mentioned. For OMS, we have also followed the same approach for RMS, and we have been preparing this document. It's actually come under approval stage, and once this will be approved, I think it will be a matter of days. We will be publishing on the RMS document section portal. Of course, the value for you is to share with you clear information on how we protect your personal data and we handle those. If I can have the next slide, I'll just sum up. The highlights for you is basically focusing on what we have been delivering. So a bunch of guidances in XCVMPD versus RMS mapping, MEDRA version 27.0 updates, and also the release of this functionality for the unaffiliated user to submit a change request. What we're working on, just for you to remind, unit of measurement fully review, and then a full review of the PD pharmaceutical dose form IDQM list, pushing the VEDRA updates and validating in UAT, and also the data protection to be published for the RMS service. In future, we aim to launch a consultation with our internal EMA multidisciplinary SMEs to review a particular list, such as the special precaution for storage, shelf life, and also target species, depending on the volume of requests that we receive. We will be also pushing for the publication of the ENDM list for the future enrichment of the devices in PMS, which is not expected, by the way, be in Q4, and RMS portal upgrades for the user experience to be improved. Not really very far in the future, but the MEDRA API integration, which is something that we are all really looking for to be integrated and pushed to production, and the version of the RMS terms via API to be displayed. And with that, I finished. There are questions. Okay, so what's the MDM list? So the MDM list is the European Commission list that contains medical device types. This is containing more than 8,000 terminologies. It's an hierarchical list and it has 7 levels of hierarchy. So what we have been doing so far is discussing with the European Commission the possibility to use this list, which is very comprehensive, but of course, not all the terms might apply or might fall in the scope of PMS, to support indeed the new launch of the PMS data model, which contains also the requirement to submit the medical device types and information for specific medicinal products. So there can be a mapping of XCVMPD vocabulary Excel to RMS, yes, or at least a map to specific terms like, for example, how to map XCVMPD provisional term from XCVMPD unit of measurement, XCVMPD denominator. So for your information, colleague, we are not, I don't know if you're referring to the XCVMPD versus RMS mapping files. Those are not focused on the unit of measurements and list, but what we are doing is to review this unit of measurement entirely. Now, when it comes to XCVMPD, because I saw many tickets being open for that, you need to be aware that the unit of measurement terminology that you see in XCVMPD are not the ones coming from RMS. So those are different lists managed by different teams. Maybe my colleagues from XCVMPD will complement my answer. The next one says, so I lost this one. So this one, the first one is already answered. I'm going to take the second one. Are EDQM helping with the data cleansing link in non-current terms of PDF, or it's only in EMA that us two are doing this? So we are doing that by ourselves because we have a bunch of characteristics that, if you notice the EDQM website, if you resubscribe to it, they do not publish it. So the way we structure the master data in RMS, it's much more granular than what you currently see in EDQM. So EDQM is always the source system for the terminology, description, current and non-current term status, of course, but characteristics such as, and now it doesn't come to my mind, but in the attribute section, at the bottom of each term, you will see that there are many characteristics. So we are reviewing those. And it is going to take at least a quarter to do so.
Veronica, if I can add maybe just on this question. So we're talking about terms that are linked in products in XCVMPD. And we are doing a first pass of looking at those products and SMPCs to even understand sometimes what those terms are and make a proposal of what should be the characteristics for those legacy terms. So these are not accepted, approved EDQM standard terms. We will be contacting EDQM, so hopefully they will consider that to have a review of that first collection we've done. But at the moment, it is important and imperative that we look at the products and the SMPCs to do that collection on behalf of EDQM. Some of the terms are quite ambiguous, so we need to do that homework ourselves.
Thank you, Isabel. I'll take the next question. Manufacturing activity RMS list. By when the list update should be published in RMS? So colleagues, as announced before, this list has already been updated and published into RMS portal. You can access not only the changes that we have introduced according to the experts, but also the minutes for transparency of each single request that was submitted at their attention. And the next question, I don't know how much time I can still have, maybe the last two, and I'll give the floor to my colleagues in XCVMPD. Target species list was reviewed quite recently. Why is it necessary to repeat the review? So this list indeed was reviewed quite recently, and that's correct. Sometimes the way we receive change requests or tickets where there are specific terms to be reviewed. So in this case, we prepare a backlog of tasks or requests to submit on not on a routine basis, but on an ad hoc basis to the relevant experts. So that's why we keep a door open, let's say, in case anything else, any requests will come out again. Last one, after release of D1 and D2 documents for those forms and route administration, any plans to release RMS document to be released for EMA to check and update? So as I mentioned, we have been releasing a new version of this document. Actually, it's from D1 to D4. Please have a look to that. For you as an heads up, we plan to release another version, which will be the last one of the D1, so the pharmaceutical dose form terms, because we haven't completed yet few non-current terms mapping. As Isabel was mentioning, we will be releasing this by, I hope, by the end of July. So but this will be also communicated properly. And thank you for the interest and attention.
So thank you, Veronica. We will now hand over to XCVMPD. And as before, if you still have questions for referentials, please add them in Slido.
Good almost afternoon, everyone. My name is Veronica Baker. I am an XCVMPD service coordinator, and I am here with my colleague, Marcos Fernandez Gomez, and we will provide you with an XCVMPD update. In Q1, we have started to work on reviewing the currently available XCVMPD related question and answer document that is published on the EMA corporate website. What we are doing is that we are reviewing every single question and answer in that document. We are trying to update it with the most recent guidance and also include any new recurrent question that we get through the EMA service desk or Ask EMA. Once this review is completed, we will publish this document as a new version on the EMA website. We will also transpose those questions and answers into articles in ServiceNow. So you will be able to search for a dedicated question before you actually log the ticket. We have also started the revision with proposed improvements of the validation process related to the authorized medicinal products. We will provide further information later on. From half of Q2, we are expecting, obviously, new product entries which were submitted by you with regards to the new pack sizes for the critical medicines products. So this will obviously have to be reflected in the validation that is done for these products. Again, further review will be provided shortly. From the end of Q3, we will be providing new XCVMPD and mapping services to dedicated national competent authorities. Again, further information is coming up. In terms of XCVMPD data quality, as my colleagues already provided this update, I will not go into further details. However, we have been working on the substance data cleansing exercise. Also in Q1, what QPPVs and responsible persons of marketing authorization holder and sponsor organizations were doing was to review the access of the users registered under their organization profile and confirm, that means approve or reject their access. Just as a quick update on this, 89% of the user roles were actually reconfirmed and therefore kept unchanged by the QPPVs and responsible persons. 4% of the user roles were revoked, and the remaining 7% of user roles were not checked, and therefore they were automatically revoked. If you are one of the users for whom the role has been revoked automatically, you can request the role again through the EMA account management portal, and the QPPV or responsible person will approve this access. As my colleague Veronica already mentioned and provided details of, we have been continuing with the proposed terms cleansing exercise, and we have already started the data quality review to support PMS migration. I will provide further details shortly. We are also going to start performing some data quality profiles. This is an activity that will take place in the near future. And also you should be made aware that with regards to the user access review for QPPVs and RPs, this is also expected in Q4 2024. Usually this happens around October time. With regards to XCVMPD documentation, we have started the review and update of XCVMPD training documents. The presentations and training documentations have been updated with regards to the face-to-face training, which is currently taking place virtually and which is organized with the help of our training organizer. The next step is to update all the documentation which is related to the XCVMPD e-learning training. We will also be releasing a new version of Chapter 3.2. This should be coming by the end of this month to reflect all the recent changes which were made in terms of processes. We will also provide additional information with regards to how to submit information on the individual pack sizes in that version. We provided input for a Q&A document which was prepared by our regulatory colleagues and is related to the changes which are introduced by the Windsor framework. And a new version of EVWeb user manual was updated and will be published hopefully by the end of this week. As you are aware, we have organized the SPOR update webinar and PSM Info Day in April. We are having this SPOR update webinar now, and there's another one planned for October in Q4. And with regards to modernization of the data and information management, I will provide further details on a minor change which has happened in the XCVMPD user interface, which is called EVWeb. So with regards to the data quality review to support PMS migration, why are we doing this? The reason is that we want to ensure that there's a very high quality data in XCVMPD and also in PMS. How are we doing this? By performing frequent reviews of certain data fields that impact the XCVMPD to PMS migration. These data fields include authorization number, EU number, authorization country, etc. We are also checking proposed terms referenced in the product, and where necessary, these are then updated to standard terms, which are later nullified if they are not used any product. This is done as part of the validation, which means that you will receive a third acknowledgement related to this change. So what we want to stress, yet again, is please refer to the third acknowledgements that you received from us with regards to the changes that were made to your data. You are required to review it, and if you are a gateway user, update this information in your internal system to ensure that when you submit a product update of the data that is in XCVMPD, you do not override the change made by us, thus possibly submitting incorrect information again. With regards to the input that we provided for the Q&A document, which is related to the changes introduced by the Windsor Framework. Why was this done? Because the Windsor Framework affects the submissions related to centrally authorized medicinal products in the XCVMPD. Okay, so what happens is that from the date on which the regulation 2023-1182 becomes applicable, just so you know, this date is foreseen to be the 1st January 2025. You should, if you reference the country code European Union in a centrally authorized medicinal products in the XI, in the XCVMPD, this, by referencing this EU, this will no longer include Northern Ireland. So at the moment, you do not have to make any dedicated submissions to indicate that a centrally authorized product is valid also in Northern Ireland. By referencing EU, this automatically includes Northern Ireland. What happens from, as I said, the foreseen date, 1st January 2025, this will no longer be applicable. Therefore, if a centrally approved product with marketing authorization valid in the EU or EEA is granted an equivalent marketing authorization by the MHRA and is valid in the territory of Northern Ireland, marketing authorization holders may submit this product information in the XCVMPD on a voluntary basis. In this case, you should reference non-EU authorization procedure, and as the country of authorization, you should specify GB, which corresponds to United Kingdom. With regards to the amendment or change that was made in EVWeb, which, as I mentioned before, is the user interface, the XCVMPD user interface. As you may be aware, since July 2019, marketing authorization holders and sponsors have to request the addition of substance information in the XCVMPD through SMS requests logged via the EMA service desk. Marketing authorization holder and sponsor users cannot submit substance additions or inserts or updates through XCV PRMs. However, in EVWeb, it was still possible to see the substances section, thus allowing certain sponsor organizations or all sponsor organizations to actually reference in the submitted XCV PRMs also substances. This obviously led to these sponsors receiving negative acknowledgement and therefore not being able to enter, for example, their product in the XCV MPD. And therefore, we have decided that we will completely remove this dedicated section from the Submit Product Report section in EasyWeb. Therefore, sponsor users will not be tempted to submit substance information and the XCV MPD. I will now hand over to my colleague Marcos for the related updates.
Thank you, Veronica. So I'm going to present what are we doing next in XCV MPD. As you can see here, in the first bullet point, we have the revision of the authorized medicinal product validation process. As you are aware, MA holders will have to start submitting additional pack sizes to XCV MPD. And therefore, in order to cope with the increased volume of data that we are going to start receiving, we want to improve the validation process. We want to make sure that all the products and all the records that we receive in XCV MPD that belong to the same medicinal product are validated together. We will start doing this between Q3 and Q4, and the idea is that we want to have a more homogeneous validation, and also we don't want to delay the validation of products. So also because this is important for pharmacovigilance and other business processes that are consuming data from XCV MPD. Moreover, as you already know, MA holders will start submitting additional pack sizes in XCV MPD due to the support that is needed from the ESMP project. As we already announced during the PMS Info Day and in different webinars, these activities should be performed by the 31st of January next year. The idea is that those records in XCV MPD where we have multiple pack sizes and that for those products belonging to the union list of critical medicines, additional pack sizes should be submitted. The idea is also that EMA will validate these newly submitted records on a weekly basis. And we will host a webinar tomorrow to give additional information to MA holders on how this submission should be done. We are not changing any rule in XCV MPD, and this is actually something that XCV MPD already permits. But anyway, due to some comments and requests from applicants, we will be hosting a webinar tomorrow to give additional information on this. The impact on the applicants is that MA holders will have to review the union list of critical medicines that you can have in this link on the presentation. And you will need to review which are the applicable products, entries that you have in XCV MPD. And if you have EV codes for multiple packages, then you will have to amend the existing products entries to refer to a single pack size and then submit as new records additional pack sizes in XCV MPD. Again, this should be done before the 31st of January 2025. The next activity that we will be working on will be the support on mapping between XCV MPD and PMS for NCAs. So the idea is that we will be supporting NCAs on the mapping exercise between their national systems and PMS to support ESMP and also NCA's readiness on the ESMP project. The idea is that EMA will help NCAs mapping their national databases with PMS, so to be able to help them mapping the medicinal products and also the pack sizes between PMS and their national databases. Why are we doing that? The problem is that NCAs don't have EV codes in their national systems. They are not tracking this information while the applicants are doing this. So the mapping exercise for applicants is easier. They can use the EV codes, but for NCAs, this information is not available. So that's why they might need additional support from us, and we will be helping them in this exercise. The impact is that then NCAs will be able to map products in their national databases to PMS, and obviously, as soon as they need to report additional information to ESMP, this can be done in a timely manner. So, in a nutshell, which are the highlights to you? What we have already changed, and as Veronica has already explained, we have removed the substances section from the create and send product reports in EV Web. So there is no confusion, as substances cannot be created or submitted through XCV-MPD. Moreover, we have improved the validation process for AMPs, and we will continue doing this during the year as we expect additional amount of records submitted to XCV-MPD, as pack sizes will have to be provided by marketing authorization holders. Also, as Veronica explained, we have released the Windsor Framework Guidance. You have the link there, and you can have a look at this guidance that we have published. In relation to the ongoing work that we are doing, AMA holders should already start submitting the authorized medicinal products entries per pack size for critical medicines by 31st of January 2025. We already know, and we have already seen some companies submitting additional information. We have also, and we are continue reviewing the XCV-MPD related documents and web pages. So this is a continuous work that we are doing to improve all the documents and web pages that we have. We are also continue doing the substance cleansing exercise and the proposed term cleansing exercise. In the future, as I explained, we will help some NCAs with the mapping exercise between XCV-MPD and PMS and their national databases. And in the future changes, we also have the Windsor framework coming into force. It is foreseen to come into force the 1st of January 2025. We will also perform the consistency review of development medicinal products in XCV-MPD, and also the development term cleansing exercise that we are planning to do in the future. With this, I think we can go to the questions. I don't know how much time do we have, but we will be happy to reply. So we have a comment. EMA is publishing XCV-MPD guidance update in Q3 2024 without guidance and instructions how industry can start individual pack size submissions from Q2 2024. So again, we are not changing any business rule. XCV-MPD already foresees the submission of pack sizes for all medicinal products. We have companies submitting pack sizes for all their portfolio since the beginning, since 2012. So we are not changing any guidance. It is true that we have received questions and comments from industry, and that's why we are now hosting a webinar to provide additional information and tips, but there is no change on the business rules. So that's why we were expecting companies to start submitting this information from Q2 already. Will there be a PMS API or user interface training session in the future, as one as we have it for XCV-MPD now, the face-to-face training or the virtual training? If yes, if it will be limited as well as XCV-MPD. So for the moment, the access to the API and the product UI doesn't need any training or any certificate because it's only for the view. Once we open this, the API and the UI for the enrichment process, so edit process, there for sure there will be any kind of certificate or training that has to be provided to the companies, but we have not discussed yet if there will be only a limited to 5 persons per people per company or organization. This is something that we still need to discuss with the SMEs and the network. So yeah. Why does EMA not inform the EMA holders about the PRD numbers with invalid substances? Is it not easy to check for invalid substances? And as I understand, the invalidation of substances is ongoing. Well, it is very complicated to get in contact with more than 2,000 companies and sending specific Excels with the specific EV codes that are impacted. It is easier for companies to go and check their products in XCV-MPD. As Veronica explained before, there are multiple ways to extract substance information from XCV-MPD. So we have the export tool, you can use the advanced queries. There are a lot of guidances out there. with this information on how to do these queries. So from our side, it's easy. It's easier for everybody. So you check your products directly in XMPD rather than us submitting data to a lot of companies. Moreover, we have also provided some comments, myself in fact, regarding, for example, updates needed on pharmaceutical dose forms or in other fields in XMPD, and I have not received any feedback or any comment or any update. So that's why making this effort, it's a bit, we prefer to provide instructions to you, so you go and check your data in XMPD and make the necessary changes. Okay, will EMA continue to validate product data in XMPD, make changes and send the third acknowledgement, or is the quality of data the responsibility of the owning company? So, companies should submit the most updated data to XMPD, and somehow the quality of the data is your responsibility. Nevertheless, EMA will continue performing this validation in XMPD. Third acknowledgements will still be submitted because the business rules in XMPD and the legal obligation to maintain XMPD remains the same. There is no change on this legal obligation. So we will continue validating this information. The only difference is that now this data will also be, let's say, pushed or migrated to PMS. But the legal obligation is still on the applicants to keep and maintain the XMPD database. Can you confirm that NAPS has been made available in the PLM portal for all org IDs listed in OMS under the company log ID at this moment? No. So we have made available the national authorized products in the PMS API, not in the PLM portal. In the PLM portal, they will start appearing in September. And yes, they will be linked to an OMS, an org ID and a log ID. That's why when Deborah was explaining there is a link between XMPD and OMS, these products will be linked to those location IDs because we have this link between OMS and XMPD. I think the first one, the top one, I have already replied. So maybe, Veronica, what about the Northern Ireland non-CAPS database?
So for nationally approved products, that means products authorized by the MHRA with MA valid in Northern Ireland, and the marketing authorization is either national, MRP or DCP. You are still required to submit the information about these products in the XEVMPD after 1st January 2025. This means you will have to reference XI as the country of authorization and EU, either national, MRP or decentralized procedure as applicable.
Okay, thank you. So in the SPOR update communication, it was mentioned to include national IDs when updating package description. What should MA holder follow if already finished submitting package description information for all products? So first of all, I'm happy to see that there are people that already submitted all the pack sizes. And the reply to this question would be that you, in principle, don't have to do anything. So the recommendation to include the national ID on the package description is to support the mapping exercise to NCAs and also to support you when to identify those pack sizes in the product UI and in the PMS API. So it's not a mandatory action, it's just a recommendation. So it's something that you can do now with the life cycle of the product, and tomorrow we will give more information about that. You can update the package description, but it's to reflect the ID, but it's not a mandatory action for you right now to just make changes to things that you have already submitted. During the PMS Info Day, it was mentioned that industry should provide a national ID for the pack sizes. Can you please provide more guidance here? So not here, because tomorrow there is a full 1.5 hour webinar on that. But the idea is that for countries where the authorization number is provided at product level, all the pack sizes have the same marketing authorization number. But in some countries, there are national IDs assigned to the pack size. The idea is that if we can include this national ID in the package description of each pack size, then we will be able to identify better to which pack size we are referring to. So that's the idea. And tomorrow in the webinar, we will provide additional information on that. During the PMS Info Day, Critical Medicines individual pack size submission timelines was proposed as February 2025, but in today's webinar is captured as January 2025. Any change in timelines? No, we are just saying that is the 31st of January, so we are ready by the 1st of February 2025. So there is no change on the timelines, it's just we are giving you the last day of January. In terms of migration from XCVMPD to PMS, what MA holders are supposed to do? Are there any actions required now? Well, a couple of them that we have already explained in different webinars. If you are an MA holder for central authorized products, you can already go to the PLM portal or to the PMS API and check your products. If the data is correct, if you can see all your products, if the manufacturers are correct, you can check all the information that is available in PMS. If you are an MA holder for non-caps, then you either use the PMS API now or you wait until September to use the product user interface to review the data. But right now, what you can do is check if your organization ID in XCVMPD is mapped to your organization in OMS. You can check the Excels that we have made published in RMS and make sure that your products in XCVMPD are not using deprecated terms or non-current terms, and you have any action on those terms. You can also check the SVG flag 0 on SMS, and if you have products in XCVMPD that are referring to those substances, and therefore you need to make the updates. There are plenty of things that you can already do. Also, you can just check your data in XCVMPD and make sure that it's current and that it's correct. And so whenever you can have access to the data, either through the API or the UI, you can start reviewing this information. So a couple of things that you can already do with your product data. When can we expect Chapter 3 update for development medicinal products in line with CTIS requirements?
So Chapter 3.2 is a guidance for marketing authorization holders with regard to the XCVMPD submissions of information of authorized medicinal products. Development medicinal products are considered unauthorized medicinal products or investigational medicines. You can find a dedicated guidance for sponsors on the data submission of investigational medicines on the EMA corporate website. There is a dedicated guidance for sponsors with regards to how to submit information on unauthorized medicinal product data in XCVMPD. XCVMPD and CTIS are two different systems. CTIS is a consuming system of the data from XCVMPD. Therefore, the guidance for sponsor does not contain that much information related to CTIS submissions, because this is not the right document where this information should be included. There is some information related to CTIS, but there will not be information on how data is submitted or should be submitted in CTIS.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. So how can we access the PMS API? The access request is not yet available in IAM. It should. There is in Chapter 1 of the EUIG, you have the step-by-step process to get access to the PMS API. So you need to first request the role of is admin role, and then once you have the admin role, there is a specific button where you can request the PMS API key. So please review Chapter 1 because you have there step by step.
Marcos, may
Yes.
I just report an information, colleagues, because I was just notified by the technical team. The role exists to connect to PMS API. The only difference is that it's not called PMS, like in the screenshot in chapter 1, which I need to update SAP. It's called Iris PLM. It's quite misleading, I understand, but you can use that one and it straight away connect you to give you the credentials, secret credential to PMS API. We are requesting to update this name, so I do expect this to be happening soon, just to clarify.
Thank you, Veronica. So is the
Just a heads up, maybe 2 more questions, and then I will need to do a little bit of conclusions so that we then ask if there's any hotter question that we will refish from the pile. So just 2 questions, Marcos, and then we do a recap.
So, is the submission of pack sizes split only for the marketed product? So that's the question that we will also reply tomorrow. In principle, yes. So for products that fall under the Union list of critical medicines and where you need to submit additional pack sizes, you need to split the pack sizes. For the moment, it's only for marketed products. Now, if there is a crisis or an exercise and preparedness exercise from ESMP, they will request all authorized pack sizes. So this is up to the applicant if you want to submit only marketed products for the moment or marketed pack sizes, or you want to submit all of them. Yeah. Then what actions are required from MA holders regarding the pack sizes? So that is a very long reply, I guess, and we don't have time for that. So tomorrow, please come to the webinar. You can register. If you look for pack sizes EMA webinar in Google, you will find the registration page. So we will reply to all these questions tomorrow.
So if you bear with me just a little bit, I'm going to do a slide now to conclude and wrap up on a few topics and give the speakers time to go through Slido and see if there's any hot question that they would like to address. So if you bear with me, next slide, please. What we did today. So the key message is that what is happening in SMS, OMS, RMS, and XEVMPD first and foremost supports PMS and other business solutions that we have in the EU network. So what we're doing in SMS, we're working on relationships, identifying if a substance is active or not, identifying if it's on the Union list of critical medicines, to facilitate identifying and supporting the use of this information in the different business processes. And as we go along, we also continue with the data cleansing of substances, hopefully to make sure that we have better data quality in SMS, but also in the products that refer to those substances. In RMS, we provided, so we've already done the mapping of XEVMPD to RMS, and we provided guidance to create a little bit more awareness and visibility of how we did that mapping and to identify potential actions that we recommend companies look and consider to improve their product data. And we're already looking ahead of critical lists that we will be implementing, revisiting for products and for other use cases such as units of measurement and these legacy terms of pharmaceutical dose forms. On OMS, we're working on individuals and, very importantly, creating awareness and transparency of why we create versions in OMS by providing the version reason and the version comment of why we did an update to OMS so that users can know why that given update was done. In XEVMPD, we are preparing for extra packages to receive extra packages to support ESMP. And of course, providing guidance for companies of how to submit those packages to us. And Marcos just highlighted how important it is to participate in the webinar that's being hosted tomorrow on this specific topic. We also updated the guidance on the Windsor framework. And a message that was also highlighted, also in support of ESMP, we will be supporting NCAs mapping their product data to the recently published PMS data. Now, so this is what we're doing to support all these different processes and to give you some awareness of where our priorities lie. You ask, and very well, what is the impact to me? So there's two levels of impact. The first and very important impact that we asked in our communication is to submit these packages on the union list of critical medicinal products, so to support shortages. If those packages are not yet in XEVMPD and the authorization number is at the level of the medicinal product. So that's the first impact to you. That's been communicated in the info day, that's been communicated in writing, and there will be a full dedicated webinar tomorrow explaining exactly what you need to do. Then the rest, you have received information in writing of what to do with regards to the use of substance, referentials, and OMS in those products. Because we are cleansing the substance data, we recommend you not to use the substances that we've already flagged that they shouldn't be used. These are the SVG flag 0. And wherever possible, look if any of those substances are relevant to you and use the replacement substance that we've indicated in the comments field in SMS to correct the information on your products. We are also providing these mappings of the terms, and wherever possible, we've created these legacy non-EDQM terms that are used in approved products. So we classify them as non-current, and in some cases it is possible that you can correct your product information. In other cases, the product was simply approved like that. That's what the SMPC says, and there's not much we can do about it. But we still ask you to have a look. For each of the terms, we've identified the action for companies and to see on your side if this is applicable for a given product in your portfolio. So with regards to SMS, RMS, and OMS, we've provided a set of best practice and recommendations. There's no deadline, and the information was already provided in writing to you. If you're still unsure what to do specifically, please do drop us a line in ServiceNow. We will be happy to provide and support with questions. And if you really want specific guidance on a generic topic, we will be launching a Slido poll at the end of the webinar. Feel free to provide feedback there of what you would like us to cover in the future. So overall, this is to give you a context of what we're doing in SPOR and what are the impacts to you. Next slide, please. So where can you find information? In addition to the webinar that tomorrow is dedicated to packages, we've had in April a webinar similar to the one today. We've had a webinar today that is focused just on giving you the news of what we've done and what we're planning to do and how it fits together. In October, we will repeat the series of long webinars on SPOR. We call it a week of webinars. And this is where we go back explaining exactly what is the business process, what is the business rules, and we will also give you a little bit of updates and next steps similar to what we've done today. So these are a mixed type of webinar where we do a longer training session on what we do in each domain, and we also update you on news and next steps. And of course, towards the end of the year, October, November, we will run our usual SPOR customer satisfaction survey. We do look carefully to the feedback we received, and as a result of that customer satisfaction survey that we adjust the communication events that we organize to you. So please use that information to provide feedback to us. I think this is what I wanted to do now. We have roughly 3 minutes. That kind of gives about a question each, maybe if there's anything hot topic that you felt was not covered. I'm going to look around, Marcos.
So yeah, because I've seen a couple of questions for the non-caps available in the PLM portal or the product UI, etc. So I want just to remind everybody, centrally authorized products are available in the product UI in the PLM portal and also in the PMS API, so connecting directly to PMS. Non-caps are only available in the PMS API, so machine-to-machine connection. If you go to the PLM portal and the product UI, non-caps are not there yet. They will appear in September. So that's the difference, because I have seen a couple of questions like this, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that.
Thank you, Marcos. Any more hot questions you would like to address? we might still take a few in writing for the participants, but for the moment, I would like to call your attention to a small survey that we're running in Slido as well. We do look at this to improve the way that we run a future webinar. So if you could please spare the 1 minute we still have in the webinar session to give us some feedback of how you felt the webinar went and where we need to improve, and if you have any further comments for us to consider. So that's all from us. I hope you enjoyed, and I think it was useful. And I wish you all a very nice summer and full of energy back in September, October for the next round of webinars. See you after summer.